No fancy open this week. All I need to say is we got Florida State football talking. We got Logan Robinson here. That should be enough. That's what it is for the next 60 minutes, folks. Leave your comments and questions there in the live chat, and we will get to them. So let's lock it in on the Knowles for the next 60. And again, get on out there, bring some folks in with you, and we'll chop it up. Logan, how's it going?
Doing great, Mark. This is a part that goes off and on with exciting things going on like we had last week, and then just a tad bit drier this week. But a lot of camps going on in Tallahassee. I got a big recruiting weekend ahead for Florida State, which we're kind of expecting to have a more drier period in July. So Florida State doing everything they can to get a lot of stars, a lot of guys, talent, current commits like Chris Parson, quarterback, and back into the building this upcoming weekend inside the Moore. So just kind of just it's the bland timing, but we're starting to get a lot of the projections. I know you got some projection stuff from some of the national outlets and the reporters out there that we can go over. But just hanging out, just chilling, enjoying the sun.
Nice. No
102
sun here
degrees.
today. Gloomy and whatever it is. I haven't even been outside. It's probably 75 or 80, but it's gloomy today. But gonna have some of those days. Not
Yep.
an issue. We haven't had too many of those, so I can't complain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with this one. I'm going to give you what I think is probably the foundation of this team this year. And you mentioned in the trenches. So let's go there. D tackle between, Robert Cooper and Fabian Levette. Do you think that's where this team is really anchored, especially on the defensive side with those two and the rest of the defensive front?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in a conversation in a group chat on Twitter earlier today with a lot of FSU fans, and we were kind of discussing. They were asking my point on what I think Florida State is going to do wins wise and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of just throwing out some guesses here and there until we really dive in and start really projecting those wins once we get closer to fall camp. But I point blank told him, I think this defense is going to carry Florida State, and the forefront of this, literally and figuratively, is going to be that defensive line with Fabian Levitt and Robert Cooper. And I don't even want to sleep on the two others that I think are going to play a big time factor for Florida State's defensive line with Malcolm Ray and also Jared Jackson. Jared Jackson having a really impressive spring to me, I think might have been the most impressive. I kind of already know what I'm going to get out of Lovett and Cooper, but to look at Jared Jackson, what he did this spring camp, I think he might have been my star out of that defensive line and that interior. At least I thought he had a really, really good camp in both leadership capabilities and his actions, but when it came to the field and his physicality, his nastiness, we didn't really see a lot of that last year, at least through his couple years now in Tallahassee. We already saw what kind of Malcolm Ray was able to do last year and taking that next step. Fabian Levitt saying, hey, Coach Edel Higgins, I want to have Malcolm Ray get in there and get some more reps, and he ended up on an away game, wanting him to start. So I think this whole Florida State defensive line is something that is going to carry this team. If you're going to look against facing some good quarterbacks, which they will do this upcoming season, you're going to want to have to get after the quarterback, but primarily at interior. And then you go on the outside with Jared Verse, and you've got Derek McLendon now, who DMAC I thought has had all these different kind of chances, but you bring in Jermaine Johnson, you bring in Keir Thomas, that ruins your chances on the outside. He was more of kind of a hybrid guy of the inside and outside once arriving at Florida State. If you guys remember, wearing number 55, he'd make some little splash plays here and there, be like, oh, who's 55? Hasn't really gotten his full opportunity to just full send it now. And the staff allow him to take off the leash and give him the opportunity to be a starter. I'm excited for DMAC. He's thinned up. He's put on some good muscle. He's lost some of that fat, might have been slowing him down. But on the other side, you got Jared Verse, who I think has a gigantic high ceiling. And if those two on the outside, along with the interior guys, can do what they need to do, I think this is one of, if not the top defensive lines in the ACC this upcoming season. It's going to carry this team quite a bit. It's going to carry this team to wins. And they did that last year a few times. We saw what they did to Miami at home, and that played a big part and taking down the Hurricanes. And I think that's going to be even. And, I listened to one of the spaces on Twitter that Jared Verse was in, and Fabian Lovett was in one last night with the Rising Spear, that NIL collective. They both have just got huge excitement for thinking this defensive line is going to be better than last year, and I think everybody agrees on that. This team on the inside should be a lot better, and just continue to grow there, because now I think you have 4 potential starters in the ACC now in your fold and depth, and you can shuffle them around as much as you want, and that's going to be a huge key for Florida State, flexing guys in and out throughout games and keeping guys fresh and healthy. And you can still throw in a guy like Joshua Farmer too, who's a young guy, hasn't had a lot of PT yet, but has really developed with his size this last offseason once arriving, and seeing him this spring. That's a big guy. So yeah, the trenches, at least on the defensive side, this is what's going to carry Florida State, I think, in 2022.
Comments and questions, folks, we'll get to them. Leave them in the live chat. Also consider that we're here every Wednesday, 6 Eastern. So please show us some love by hitting the like button, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe, of course, right here. Got on over to the Nole Game Day Discord, and check out what they got going on Thursday at 8 Eastern. It's at 8:30.
Hey, well, now it's switched around a lot. We're now kind of in that 7 p.m. range, just because to help the guests a little bit. But yeah, so somewhere around there. Just make sure you're kind of on the Twitter. Just follow us somewhere on Twitter, and you'll be notified. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So it's YouTube every Thursday night with Nole Game Day. Absolutely. So get there. While we're on it, we'll go with I Wonder here, because we've already tapped the strengths. He wants to know what the biggest strengths and weaknesses are. So we'll go weakness. Where are you concerned the most as we start August camp?
My biggest weakness, if we're talking about threat to an opponent, I think the biggest weakness is going to be Florida State's tight end room, unless someone really steps up. And you got Cameron McDonald, who's been around the university, which seems like 16 or 17 years now, but has really represented Florida State very well. And he's kind of a hybrid guy, tweener guy between a wide receiver and a tight end. That's you got Cameron McDonald, but you're kind of looking for answers behind him, because you had not a lot of you had a little bit of success last season with it. It was kind of up and down, but you'd like to see, Mike Norvell likes to have a tight end threat, and, that hasn't really been utilized. And, that big thing too is depth and talent there. And Florida State hasn't been able to bring a highly touted recruit in that room for quite a while. And, Florida State going into the season is going to rely on Cam McDonald. And you're going to hope that a few guys like Wyatt Rector, maybe even Jackson West, those guys can step up. I thought Brian Courtney had a pretty good spring, but that guy hasn't had a lot of PT. Really, you're looking at Wyatt Rector and Cam McDonald here. You really like a guy like Marcus and Douglas to step up and be a good tight end blocker guy. He's not going to be really a threat there, a lethal threat at catching, even though I thought he had a more impressive spring catching than I thought he would. That's a really good size tight end. But after that, you're looking at some smaller guys. Let's just be honest here. So I think tight end is probably your weakness heading. If we're talking at least positional group, that's probably going to be your weakness.
Logan Athlons has a section with every team page where they basically interviewed an opposing coach in the conference, and it's anonymous, of course, but they've got their take on that particular team. So this is scouting the Seminoles, and this is coming from an opposing coach in the ACC. So pick your coach. It's 1 out of 13. I would think they'd get somebody in the division, most likely. All right. This is what opposing coaches have to say about Florida State. Okay. It's possible that Mike Norvell might have this thing turned around a little bit, but not to the level that fans are going to want right now. They've relied so much on transfers, especially on defense. You never really know what they've got out there. And I don't mean that as a compliment to their strategy. Some of those guys have hit, but you can't maintain that at Florida State. At some point, you got to stop using Band-Aids. So that's one comment.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I like that coaches, because I guess it's anonymous, they'll keep it real and not fake. I hate fake BS. I wish they'd kind of say it just straight up how it is, because these are coaches, and they get paid to coach, and it's also fun to try to decipher and figure out who that might be. I think everybody's always trying to figure out what Dabo's saying about Florida State, since it seems like he and Mike Norvell have not had maybe the hottest start relationship wise.
No.
Since COVID-19. But yeah, go ahead and proceed with whoever's next.
So the next comment is Jordan Travis is athletic and makes a bunch of plays, but he also seems hurt all the time. Can he function more as a primary thrower and dial down the runs? You have to think the coaches want that too. I don't think he was moved around that much by design. The offensive line looks like it will be better than the last few years. That's one place where they've been using the portal pretty well, and they always have talent at running back. So if they can match that on defense, they're going to be better overall for the first time in a long time.
So Jordan Travis and rushing attack and running back room. They would like to have Jordan Travis throw more, and I think we saw that developed last year. I thought he kind of put himself back to how he was a little bit at the beginning of the season, how he was before, with being a little bit antsy in the pocket, running around, taking hits that were definitely not needed. But I think some people are forgetting, and I'd see this on Twitter, and I think this is now the off season for FSU Twitter, where we just completely forget about what happened maybe at the last 6 or maybe 5 games of Jordan Travis. He started fixing a lot of these things, going out of the way, not getting hit. Some of these he had to go in and he was working to get yards to get these first downs. But I think a lot of people are forgetting the way that he protected the ball, protected himself a little bit more. Some of these are just going to sometimes happen when you get sacked, and it's Florida State's offensive line that it seems like they were hurt and dinged up since week 1, practically, week 2, week 3. Sacks are going to happen. So, that the biggest thing with Jordan is that elbow, it seems like, or that arm. Things are going to happen, but he's developed, and in the last 6 games with that whole, everybody wants him to slide down. Well, he was doing that. Go back and watch some tape, please.
And we've got a comment here that the UCF linebacker Tatum Bethune is going to help them out. They have almost all of their receivers back, but none of them really blows you away. They don't have a go-to guy in that unit. Is 7-5 enough? It should be. They could put pieces together this year. They create a huge 23 season, and they're not in a place where they can really show off their high school recruiting. And yeah, we've all heard the talk about Dion. So is 7-5 really enough?
So I like
who knows who made all those comments, but it was an ACC coach.
Yep. No, I mean, I like that some coaches are trying to fuel the fire there with Dion, because I'm sure some of these coaches that at least have any more than 5 or 6 brain cells know that probably Dion wouldn't be as successful as maybe some of these other people on the internet believe that he would be. Sure, you would probably do pretty well on the recruiting front for some of the aspects, but you can still do the same thing for 2 years, 3 years. Some of these coaches coming in, getting all that hype once arriving, and you get that new staff in and everything's hot, but then you screw up and you don't have 2 good seasons. That's currently, let's be real, that's what Florida State's in. You get hot early on. This is brand name. This is Florida State. You're going to get high caliber recruits in here no matter what. Definitely in those first 1-2 years. But if you ain't winning, you're not going to land any of the big boys, the big cats that you've not been able to hold on to. And now, looking ahead to this class, aren't able to grab until you win. And so this is what this staff knows in Tallahassee. The biggest factor in recruiting is going to be wins. So, yeah.
That's it right there. We've got Rooney Knoll. Appreciate you being here. Which wide receiver are you the most excited about? I'm excited to see Johnny Wilson and Malik McClain, both big bodies with lots of potential.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Malik McLean here, and people keep on sleeping on him too, like he's no longer on the team. He had the best spring by far in the wide receiver room. I think Micah Pittman was right behind him, and there could have been some potential there for even Portier. I thought had a pretty, really well-rounded spring overall with consistency, playmaking, and really a good deep threat down the field. And Coach Norvell was really excited from what he saw with Portier. Those three, I think, just leaving spring, I thought have caught my eye. I know we're still waiting on Winston Wright's recovery, and it's just a blessing that he was able to get out of that car accident and not have anything else severe. But it seems like he's recovering very well. As it will tell whenever we get to fall camp and see if he's available to participate. He was already kind of dinged up, limited to start last spring before that incident with the car crash. So, once you're able to get him back and get him into the fold, really not even get him back, but get him into the fold, he was never catching passes from Jordan Travis or any of the quarterbacks. That's worth mentioning there. There still has to build chemistry alone on practices, 7-on-7s with your wide receivers, blah, 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 getting an understanding of the system. But, you would hope if he comes back fully recovered and you go back to some of his tape at West Virginia, that guy can be a threat early in that rotation. And I think, if he was fully healthy and if we like what we saw in the spring, this would be a top 3 wide receiver coming in. But right now, I think Malik McLean is by far the most connected with Jordan Travis and what we watched all throughout the spring. He looks good. And just like Rooney says, has really good size on him, has speed, knows the system. That's the thing. There's a reason why Mike Norvell and at the time Kenny Dillingham and Dugans, they put Malik McLean in and trusted him a lot as a true freshman, is because he understood the system, the playbook, and everything, and also blocked his ass off. So I'm excited for Malik McLean and really excited for how they use Micah Pittman. Florida State has done this before so many times with different wide receivers, Nooney Murray, Keyshawn Helton. I'm trying to think of a few more. They always have those kind of gadgety wide receivers that they love to run all these different kinds of speed option, or we're going to run all these different kind of, weird, just short pass plays to the wide receiver, and they just don't end up working out. I think Micah Pittman has the vision. You can have the speed, but if you don't have the vision, you're not going to know where in the hell you're going. Micah Pittman, I think, has that, and he does that in special teams, and we saw it in the spring game too. And he really did light it up a couple days in practice just off of really some great catches in the end zone. So a lot of guys that there has potential here, and that's definitely has the potential with some of those wide receivers.
Got Logan Robinson on the line as we do each and every Wednesday night. We've done this 163 consecutive weeks. Yeah, no Jason Parker, no Jason tonight, celebrating a little birthday festivities with family. So we'll let Jason off the hook this week, but no JP. Got Big Game James is somewhere in Kentucky, in Lexington, speaking and doing all sorts of shaking hands and all sorts of good things he's got going on there. So Logan's got it nailed down tonight. We appreciate Logan being here. Mm-hmm. And Logan, what's the best way for people to get locked into a Nole game day and everything you guys have going on there?
Really, now we just got our original Twitter account back that we lost back in 2019. So if you guys want to, now all you got to do is go to Twitter and just search Nole Game Day. That is now back. We got our 20,000 followers back after our jail time that we served under Twitter's committee there. We got out of that last week, so you can go follow us at Nole Game Day. And then now we transferred that the other Nole Game Day account to Nole Recruiting at Nole Recruiting. That's going to be a continuous 24/7 coverage of recruiting and transfer portal, which that takes up about 90% of news anyways nowadays. So you guys can go over there, and Dustin's at about every camp that's at least in Tallahassee at Florida State. Now that he's full-time with us, we send him off to go to every single camp and give you guys quotes and such. So that's going on. And then we should have Brian Stork, 2013 national champion, Remington Award winner, who was Jameis Winston's center during that national championship run, and then the next year won a Super Bowl with the Patriots for Tom Brady. He's going to be coming on. We're expecting him to come onto our podcast tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So we had Jameis Winston's dad last week. We'll get Brian Stork this week. So trying to get some content during the off season, Mark, while it's a little slow.
Yeah. Sweet. Good stuff. Yeah. Right there. We had your buddy Nate Greer on the other night for a nice conversation with Nate on FSU recruiting. And I got to say that the bottom line with Nate seems to be that he has full faith that Mike Norvell knows how to coach. He knows how to run a team, knows how to run a program. So as long as he has enough talent and enough time, that he's going to be able to make it good. He's going to be able to run this program and get it to where it needs to be. The problem is that Nate seems to be concerned about is the recruiting going to be where it needs to be to give Norvell enough time to get the right players on the field and get this all working together, and just seems a bit concerned about where recruiting's heading right now.
Yeah, I watched a few of the videos so far, definitely talking about recruiting and where it could go and where it's not going right now. We kind of alluded to it earlier. What is going to change everything. Like we said, Norvell is able to do recruiting with the moms, the dads, they love him. The coaches love him. He's doing a great job in Florida and getting everywhere and getting over there to Louisiana a little bit and go over to the West Coast when they need to. And right now it seems like the only thing clicking for him a tad, at least for elite, it's great to get some of these other guys that are definitely talented, but those are project guys. Those are guys that you're going to have to develop. Florida State back in the day was able to bring in guys like Ronald Darby, PJ Williams, Aligwe at linebacker. It goes all throughout the front there on the offensive line on who they're able to bring in. Rick Trickett was in his bag there with Jimbo on bringing some guys to help protect Jameis. Those are guys that you can count on really in year one. You also had Jalen Ramsey too, and Jimbo didn't like starting a lot of young guys, but a lot of these guys could come in as immediate depth pieces, which, Florida State has lacked in the last couple of seasons. I think that's what hurts Florida State. But, I don't think Nate's wrong with saying, Mike Norvell is a very smart coach, definitely on the offensive side. I think I talked about this in that group chat earlier. I think it might surprise some people, but I think they'll be on board with me here. I think Kenny Dillingham and Mike Norvell weren't on the same alignment with some of their preps for some of these games, at least offensive play calling. Some weeks, boom, clicking, things are rocking. You're like, where in the hell did this come from? And then the next week, what are we doing here? You got to rely on the defensive side for Florida State to push through and win games. And, Florida State wasn't able to get down the field. I think that also, the cause for that too, your quarterback room was limited with Jordan Travis being hurt a little bit all throughout the season. But now, this is Mike Norvell's offense. This isn't Alex Atkins. There's no other offensive coordinator for Florida State. I understand that, Alex Atkins gets promoted here, but, Mike Norvell is going to be calling the plays. This is his system. This is what he'll draw up. Yes, Coach Atkins and them, they'll work together on this. But I think, listening to Coach Atkins whenever he was promoted to co-offensive coordinator, he made it point blank clear. I'm learning under Mike Norvell. This puts me in a good spot to learn under him. I'm not coming in to be an offensive coordinator and be a play caller. Now, this is all on Mike Norvell, and this is what I'm actually excited for. He was able to do this. Going back, if you look at his days at Memphis, this is something that was put on him, there, and they found really, really lethal success. Sorry, Willie, for going there with that, but they found some really scary success on offense under his straight up play calling. There wasn't it felt more of a co offensive coordinator kind of situation with Kenny Dillingham in the fold. And I thought too, in some of those games, he was the main, play set caller for some of those. And that, I think that changed a little bit and things got off track. I don't think there was a relationship problem whatsoever. No, I think those two are very tight and close there. But on the football side, with some of the things that were going on in games, just didn't make sense to me. Some games you could definitely tell Mike is calling this one up, but then some games you're looking at them and you're like, something's being called from upstairs and it's quite obvious. Then I it's kind of an argument on Twitter and Discords and everywhere if that's the case or not. But it's pretty point blank clear. Yeah, I thought Kenny Dillingham was involved in quite a bit of at least prepping for these games, and then calling plays and some of these games, and you could see a switch pretty quickly when Mike Norvell is not. Whenever he's actually out there and calling some of these. So we'll see what ends up happening. But, Florida State's got to get wins to change anything. You got to get wins to bring in elite prospects that can come in and contribute right away.
You were talking about recruiting rankings, and a lot of people get a little bit too involved in the recruiting rankings, and that everybody's got to be like a top 5 or 10 at their position. And nobody signs a class like that. Go to Alabama's class, go to Ohio State's class, Georgia's class. They've got a number of 3 stars on the team that are going to become either program players or they're going to become really good players. There are plenty of 3 stars in the NFL, plenty of 3 stars that are, impact players or all conference players on teams. But yeah, you do need dudes. And it doesn't seem like a big deal between being, let's say, top 5 in recruiting and being more like top 15. It seems like, okay, well, just coach them up and be better coaches. And the recruiting rankings, they're not perfect. They're not completely accurate. Obviously, it's all a projection, but they're pretty damn close. Florida State's recruiting classes in 2013, 14, 15, and 16 were 4, 4, and 2. Those 3 recruiting classes, 4th, 4th, and 2nd in the nation in recruiting. That's miles away from being like 20. 20's good. That's good. You've got talent. That's a really good recruiting class, depending on what your goals are. If you're Louisville, if you're TCU, if you're Stanford, that's a really good recruiting class. If you're Florida State and you want to be who you were, you can have a 20th ranked recruiting class, and there can be a ton of dudes in that class that are definitely excellent players that you would want even if you had the number 1 class. But there's a good portion of that class, like a third of that class, that is totally different and nowhere close to what it was when you had a top 5 class. And again, they had 3 consecutive top 4 classes in the country. And another thing you said stuck with me, that, yeah, if you go to any of these recruiting classes, if you just go to the players, who were the top 100 players, 200 players, and you just look for Florida State's logo 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you're going to see it pop up a lot more near the top and through that top 50, 100, 150 than you do now. Ohio State has had 3 top 50 players commit in the last 3 days. You used to see that out of Florida State.
Yeah, and things have changed quite a bit. I think it's been still air since maybe before the spring game for Florida State. Usually Florida State's able to get a lot of studs, and then they were able to get quite a few, but it's still air a little bit in Tallahassee right now, as it should be, and I'm glad it's that way, to be honest, because I think Florida State has kind of gotten played quite a bit and a little bit, and some of these recruitments, and, I wish recruits would, it's tough. These are young kids. I don't want to ruin a relationship with the coaching staff and, families and all of that kind of stuff. But, I wish they'd kind of say it point blank. I got to see Florida State win before I'm coming back for a visit, let alone I'll use one of my official visits. Let's just say it point blank. I saw this comment earlier. Fuente was gone 2016, I believe. Mike Norvell was able to take Memphis to the AAC championship and win that before heading over to Florida State. But I know that's a Miami fan in the comments, so easy to tell there that we are kind of a little bit behind there in the brain cells. But go back and look at some of what Mike Norvell was able to do at Memphis. I mean, he was the hottest, if not one of the hottest coaches during his time before coming to Florida State and taking that job here in Tallahassee. Sure, Fuente was able to bring in some talent there, but, Mike Norvell didn't come in until 2020 And he was able to bring some of that talent over and win an AAC championship and continue to bring them into New Year's Six bowl games. So just a fun fact there on the Mark Rogers College Football Show here.
There you go. D-Rock Irish, it's both. It's both. He says, I'll say it again, stop with the stargazing. It's called development. It's both. You need both. Texas has been bringing in top 5 classes, top 5 to 10 over and over and over and over. They haven't been worth anything for over 10 years. Wisconsin's on the other end. You know, they don't really care what their class rank is. It's going to be 30th or 40th, but they're going to coach them up to a top 15 team. But yep. you need both. You need both. They're going to recruit me and Logan. Then they could develop us, and we could put our nose to the grindstone all summer, and it's still not going to get done. It's both. You need both. You need talent to work with. But yeah, the ratings can be overrated to a certain extent. But you need dudes, and then you need to be able to develop them individually. Then you got to develop them as a group and put together a good scheme on offense and defense. Then you got to be able to make game preparation and game adjustments. That takes it all the way from recruiting and talent acquisition all the way through to winter workouts and in spring, and developing them as individuals and techniques, beginning with how you get into your stance all the way through to, how to shed blocks, read blocks, do all the things you need to do to be great at what you do as an individual contributor. And then it's up to the coaches to obviously put it all together to prepare for LSU on a Sunday night. And then once they get slapped in the face with a few things that they never saw on tape, a good coaching staff will be able to adjust to that during the game or at halftime to figure, okay, well, we knew LSU pretty damn well, but they did hit us with a few things that they never put on tape and we've never seen before. And good coaching staffs can adjust to it and say, well, that means we're going to do A, B, and C to counter that and get the job done. That's why these guys get paid so much money. It's not easy.
No, that is not easy. Definitely whenever you're having to build like the case and Florida State is, you've got the administration now, I think, moving towards you and now has your back in a lot of ways. That's something that Florida State had lost after, Willie for a little while. And not everybody fully on board with building this football program back, because I thought it was tossed over and maybe not focused on as much anymore, but it kind of hurt Florida State as a program overall, as a university, to ignore that this is Florida effing State. That this is the football program. This is the brand. When you think Florida State, you're thinking Peter Warrick, you're thinking Charlie Ward, Derek Brooks. You're not, we'll probably get torched here, but you're not thinking softball. We're not thinking baseball. You'll look there and look at all the runs they were able to do, but not come away with a championship there. You're thinking about Bobby Bowden and what he built. And, the focus kind of got lost there, I'll be honest. And I think there were some changes, and there has been some changes inside the administration at Florida State to where now things are solely focused, and not solely, we're attributing to the other programs in the university, yes, but it's time to get back to where the focus needs to be. And I think Mike Norvell now has that with the program's back, the administration's backing. But you can do all that. You can have all of that and talk the talk and have the talent come in. But if you don't go out there and get at least a minimum of 7 wins, no one's going to give a flying F. They're not going to care. No one's going to be watching you if you've got 3 or 4 losses already like that, and you've got 6 games that you've already played in the season. No one's going to be watching Florida State then. I mean, it's I don't want to watch any other program. I don't care if I'm watching Saturday Texas and they're 4-3. I mean, that's still Texas, yeah, but I could give a crap less. It's just time to get back to it, and the basic thing to do is get wins. And Florida State now has a chance to start off a 1-0, which hasn't happened in quite a long while. And then you get to face Brian Kelly on week 2. That'll be their first game. But Montgomery has gotten close and definitely was very close last time and coming away with a win there. And I thought Florida State was going to have some big time momentum to start off their season. I think it would have, you probably wouldn't have lost to Jacksonville State, but yeah, going on a rant there.
Yeah. They would have beaten Notre Dame. Yeah, it would be hard to imagine that they would have lost to Jacksonville State. The season could have been completely different. The way it was, 0-4 could have really been turned into a complete train wreck, but they won 5 of the next 7 to get to 5-6. But that's in the rearview mirror. So anyway, Casey says, out of all the teams on our schedule that may be preseason ranked, we've got a pretty good clue of who's going to be ranked in the preseason. First of all, there's not going to be that many teams on the schedule that are preseason ranked because Florida may not be ranked. LSU's probably not going to be ranked. So we're looking at NC State and Clemson and Miami. I can't think of anybody else who's going to be ranked for sure on their schedule. So
I thought Florida State would have beat NC State last year with pretty solidly with Jordan Travis. That was just tough there for FSU, losing their starting quarterback and then trying to run the same system. We've talked about it a ton, but trying to run the same system, having Mackenzie Milton run the same system that Jordan Travis is just no bueno, not going to work. I mean, you don't really have anything much else to work with behind that. You would have wished Chuba Purdy would have stayed, left the week before and decided to enter the transfer portal. So that kind of screwed them in some sort of ways, because I thought that he was by far probably number 2 behind Jordan Travis. Sucks for him. He's going to go up to Oklahoma and wish him the best and good luck up there. It's going to be back to how it was here in Tallahassee with competing for a starting job, but that's a whole different kind of conversation there. I'd probably go NC State if they do end up being preseason ranked. They've got a lot of hype right now. They've kind of won the hype of the week, if not the month, for recruiting. We've seen it all the kind of hoopla and I believe it was all the private jets and what is going on? What is happening here? I don't know what's going on up there at NC State, but Jesus, I feel like the recruits, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like if I'm a kid and like I'm getting recruited, I'm getting heavily recruited, but like, does some of this just not look fake to me? And like, it just portrays just like, I don't know, trying too hard and stuff with all the private jets, the Rolls Royces and stuff. I guess it's cool to see it in person and such, but one, I really more care about the staff and who they have and their previous stops, their records here and there, and what they've been able to develop into the NFL. I don't know. I feel like we're heading in a whole different. I know this could be a whole different 2-hour-long podcast because I can already see Mark ready to chip in here, but it just feels so weird. I don't know. I don't think a private jet is going to get, or seeing a private jet or seeing a Lamborghini is going to get me to, seal the deal and pick Florida State. But that just might not be me. I don't know.
Yeah, you just have to know. And even if you don't know as a 17 or 18-year-old, somebody's got to get in your ear to let you know this isn't real life. This isn't what your run at this particular school is going to look like every day. Nobody's picking you up in a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce, and this isn't going to be life for you. They're doing this one time. They're showing this off. They're going to wine and dine you, but this isn't real. This isn't real life. So let's get to the core of what's important here and what is your stay at this school with this football program going to look like through the grind of every day for 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It just come off more of a negative way in me, but I'm also crazy in the head. So I don't know. I think I was a little bit more. I thought about what the other person was trying to do to me. Like, yeah, you recruit me, but I don't know, the Lamborghinis and all that kind of stuff is interesting. But yeah, I'd probably go Florida State beating NC State. And, I think the big question here is Miami. Florida State's going to go down there and travel there. Right now, I think Florida State's defensive line is just going to be even scarier for Miami. I think everybody was extremely concerned about Tyler Van Dyke. I was the one, I think, on here that I said numerous times, I don't see a big problem with Tyler Van Dyke. Yeah, he threw a few passes here and there, but that whole entire game, Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas and that interior defensive line wreaked havoc. And I felt good afterwards with my prediction there, which was the exact score. So I have to feel good about that. I believe that was my one that I got the exact score on for that night, which was absolutely craziness. But no, I don't think right now Florida State is too far ahead with just saying seal the deal and then they get the win against Miami. But yeah, I think Clemson will always be up there, top tier to take away. And Mike almost did it up there in Death Valley too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of almosts and should haves. Now it's get it done.
Yeah, Casey, I forgot Wake. Wake will be preseason ranked as well. That might be a good target right there. They should have Wake. They had to go there last year, so they should have Wake at home. Clemson's at home.
Yep.
So there's Florida's a few opportunities there.
Yep. Yeah. There's comment in here too. We got our Mr. HDR guy, our Miami guy in here. Jermaine is gone. Y'all boys getting stomped again. Worse than 52-10. Now we're getting wild. Did they? I guess it's. Never mind. I was gonna say, is everything legal now down there? In Coral Gables, everything legal?
Yep.
Like the crazy stuff legal now? Not just the reefer, but is everything legal now down there? I don't know. I have a really scary feeling for them if they are just going to block out a guy named Jared Verse off the edge there. If they're gonna block that out of their mind and they wait to find out about Jared Verse the week of, tough signs, tough deals.
Should be interesting. Yeah, I'm guessing, Ray Fitty, that Logan doesn't really care where Chubba Purdy went. Yeah, just for the record, he went to Nebraska. Yeah, it's at Nebraska.
Yikes.
And, most likely going to be the backup there. Although I heard some good things about him possibly challenging for the starting job, but most likely the backup.
We'll see. I wish him the best. I thought, like I said, he would have been. That would kind of been a little debut for him to where I thought going into this year it'd be a battle between Jordan Travis and Chuba Purdy, but things kind of went sideways there, I believe, with the family and what they were expecting out of the staff on giving him some more potential playing time. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
See how he does up there in Nebraska.
Absolutely. So we'll leave everyone with a few stats here. You can give your response here, Logan. I'm taking these straight from Athlon's. So Florida State, for one thing, their field position to start offensive drives was one of the worst in the country at number 125. So they need to do better in the return game there. Number 125 in starting field position. And in those drives that they had to start all the way back at the average of 25, they scored less than 2 points per drive. So that was one of the worst figures in the nation. So obviously that is a combination of getting a better return game and then also extending drives, because if they had to drive the entire field, they usually didn't get it done.
Yeah, well, they've a lot of this too, I think, is going to have to go on the offensive line and mainly in the running game here. I think Florida State has probably behind the defensive line on that side of the ball, probably the running back room is going to be your most talented. And if they can keep healthy up front, which they're hoping to do, bringing in overall, 15 guys in the trenches, but a lot of those guys on the offensive line, if they can keep consistency there and keep healthy and keep that same rotation, really, you don't want to rotate anybody, but if you can keep a good depth there, Florida State should do pretty well in that run game and should help continue drives. That's something that Mike Norvell did very well at Memphis with his running backs. You got to hope that this continues. And Florida State has done a little bit with Deshaun Corbin. Now you got Treshaun Ward being your expected starter, and you've got Trey Benson. You got Lawrence Toafili as your three-headed monster. Got a few guys behind him too with CJ Campbell. And then you've also got Rodney Hill as a true freshman. If things can move up front and blocks can be made, this running back room should be able to shuffle in and out and be able to gain some yards down the field to sustain these drives. You don't want to have to fully rely on Jordan Travis throwing the ball as much. This is all going to have to start with what's going on. There's a lot of good grades here and there on some national outlets on looking at a few guys on the offensive line, but I still think there are some issues from last year for sure that need to be fixed, and we'll see if Coach Atkins is highly, respected and probably your top assistant behind Mike Norvell and what he's able to do, not only now in recruiting, but, it seems like developing and getting guys better up front. You feel good that he's the coach there, but I still think he's got a lot of work to do this upcoming fall camp after what I watched in the spring.
Florida State Seminoles live every Wednesday right here at the Voice of College Football, 6 Eastern. Good crowd tonight. Pushed 100. We can do better. So think about all those college football fans, all of them, especially Florida State fans, of course. We want FSU fans in here first and foremost, but you can see it. We got Notre Dame fans, Miami fans, Ohio State fans, Michigan fans, Oregon fans, USC fans, just off the top of my head in the chat. So all college football fans, welcome. So people out there that would love the discussion as much as you do. So bring them on in here next Wednesday, 6 Eastern. We'll have another big show ready for you. In the meantime, lock it in on Nole Game Day and get on over there for the live chat tomorrow night, 7 Eastern,
Yep.
right?
7 Eastern. Come hang out if you want to talk some more FSU stuff, and it should be a good interview with Brian Stork. I don't think he's done a lot of interviews, so he's a guy that's won, and maybe he'll keep it real. I've heard that he can bring up a good conversation, so it should be a good interview. That's tomorrow at 7:00 on our channel, Nole Game Day, if you guys want to search it and check it out.
There you go. Here's the to-do list. Next Wednesday, you're here at 6 Eastern. In the meantime, let's see, tomorrow night, Thursday night, 7 Eastern, Nole Game Day for the big chat there. And then, boom, right now, we got our Miami show. Here we go. 7 Eastern. Get on over there.
Well, they're in the chat, so they're ready to join you, Mark. They're ready to join you.
Thanks,
it. Mark.
Thanks, Logan. Appreciate you making this happen, man.
Of course, appreciate it. Everybody